What's up everyone, China Cycling here. It's finally here, the 24mm version of the Cybrei crankset. In today's video, we're going to talk about why you want a 24mm version, what the advantages are, what the disadvantages are, and what the differences are with the original DUB version. So yeah, let's check it out. So what is the Cybrei crankset? Unless you've been living under a rock, this has been one of the most popular products on the website since we launched over a year ago. And yeah, this is the original DUB version of the Cybrei crankset. I have them on a bunch of my bikes. You guys have been buying a bunch of them. I think last year we sold a few hundred of them. So yeah, definitely a very popular product. What is it? Basically carbon crank arms, super stiff, and then an axle, and using the Eastern mount, I think Eastern cinch system is what it's called. And so then you can choose whether to put a power meter on it or just a regular spider on it. There's a huge ecosystem out there now of parts for it, but the main highlight is just stiffness and lightness, and then stiffness to weight. So just had a quick look here. Up here I have my Dura Ace R900P, the power meter version, the latest and greatest that Shimano makes. This setup here, exactly the same, so cranks, power meter and chain rings. This here is 150 grams lighter than that setup back there. So yeah, quite impressive stats indeed. Now, more and more carbon cranksets are coming out of China, but I think Cybrei are solidifying themselves as being the most legit. One part you can see that is SRM using them now. So last year on the channel, when I went to Seattle, I went to the SRM booth and I saw these on the SRM booth. And now, yeah, SRM sell this crankset in their SRM Origins series. And I saw a few days ago as well, they're now also selling the carbon fiber chain rings in their SRM Origin series too. So obviously SRM, super serious, super German company. They inspect things, they test things very well before they put their name on it. And yeah, so now they're selling these. And one upside of that, the Tour de France last year, Tadej Pogacar, he was actually running these cranks with the SRM branding on his time trial bike. So if these are good enough for Pogacar, they're definitely good enough for you. I have them on a bunch of my bikes now. Our team uses them, races them every day, all that stuff. So these are one product that I'm really confident in. Obviously, one thing for me is when I'm selling things, I don't want there to be issues because it's me who has to deal with the issues. So this is one product that I'm super confident in just because our team are riding it. Like I say, it's in the World Tour now, all that stuff. So yeah, that makes me easy to sleep at night. But if you want more details on the old crank, I'll put a link down to the video I did like 1.5 years ago, which goes over that. Today, we're going to mostly focus on the new one, the 24mm spindle version. So what is the difference? So this here is the Shimano standard version, so a 24mm spindle, slightly longer. This one here is the SRAM DUB standard spindle, so a thicker but shorter spindle. So basically just two different standards. The bike industry, we like to have a million standards for everything, but pros and cons. So if you already have a Shimano setup on your bike, then this will mean it's just a straight swap in out. You don't need to buy a new bottom bracket. But also one reason some people don't like DUB, with some bottom bracket standards, the hole in the frame itself is already pretty small, and then you go put a big axle in there, you've only got a really small room for bearings. I know Hambini, he doesn't really like this setup because he just thinks the bearings are too small. Yeah, valid point. For me personally, with my weight and my power, I've never had an issue, so I've using the DUB version on a whole bunch of bikes with BSA, BB86, like all of these pretty small bottom bracket standards. I've never had an issue. Yeah, I do go through bottom brackets, but everyone goes through bottom brackets, after several thousand kilometers. Would they have lasted longer if they were this version? Probably, maybe. I don't know, it's a bit hearsay. But long story short, some people like to have bigger bearings, so no problem. You use the 24mm spindle version, you can have bigger bearings. But basic physics, obviously the thinner a spindle gets, the less strength it has, the less stiffness it has. So how have Cybrei combated that? Well, the old one, the DUB version, the spindle is made of aluminum because it's such a big spindle, you can make it of aluminum and the strength is fine. But the new version, the 24mm spindle, they've had to make the spindle out of titanium to give it the strength it needs, to give it the same strength ratio that the old one had too. Now, obviously, titanium is a more expensive raw material and harder to machine, so that means the cost has gone up. This new version is basically $70 more than the aluminium version. So if you are on the fence about which one to get, if your frame can take both, maybe the dub version is better because it's cheaper, This is titanium, titanium is bling bling, but once it's in your bike, you can't see it, so who cares? As well as being $70 more expensive, it's also 15 grams heavier than the old one. like I say, just because it's a smaller spindle, they have to make the spindle walls thicker to give it that strength, even though it's made out of titanium. So yeah, the DUB version is still the lightest. The titanium version is 15 grams heavier. 15 grams, does it matter? You be the judge, we're all weight winners at the end of the day. But yeah, the main advantage of this is if you want to run bigger bearings, or if you just want a straight swap in, swap out for your bike, this is the one to go for. Anecdotally, we put this up on the website around the start of the year, the beginning of January, and since it went up, this version is outselling the DUB version. Not sure if it's just because it's new and shiny and so people are interested in it, or just more people generally do prefer a 24mm spindle. But yeah, so far this guy is outselling this guy. So all the mounting for spiders and power meters is still the same as the old ones, so it still mounts onto the crank arm here, and so there's a whole ecosystem of parts out there. This is Cybrei's own spider. You can also get XKD or SIGA-E power meters. I think Power to Max also do an Eastern standard power meter. This Eastern Cinch standard, it's an open standard, I believe, so there's lots of people making things for it, but yeah, Cybrei has their own solutions too. One of the most popular solutions that we sell on the website is with the XKD power meter. I'm running that set up on a whole bunch of my bikes too. XKD power meter, I think GP Llama, Shane Miller, he did a review of this and he's quite a fan. One thing you'll find about it when you do get out of the box, it does tend to underread or overread by like 3 to 5%. It consistently does that. But if you're after absolute precise power, then it's worth doing like a comparison with like pedal-based power meters, and then in the app you can give it like a 3% boost or a 3% minus on it. It's something I wish they would improve, but at least it's consistent, and that's the most important thing with the power meter. Obviously everyone knows the Shimano power meter up there is not a very consistent power meter. So this setup, it's perfect for me. If you really do want a better power meter though, like I say, use the Eastern Cinch standard, go out there, do your research. I think Power to Max have an option, like I say, and that's probably going to be more accurate than this XKD option here. As I said earlier in the video, there are now more and more carbon cranks coming out of China. This is one thing you always see with the Chinese stuff. You know, one brand does it first and then every brand kind of starts copying it to try to do that. I think Trace Velo did a video last week where he did some of his carbon cranksets from China. You go watch the video. I'm not going to put words in his mouth or anything, but like his main thing in that video was just, are they reliable? You know, are they going to crack over time? Stuff like that. One thing I'll say with the Cybrei is, like I say, we sell hundreds of them and very rarely get anything go wrong with them. I think I've seen like one of these screws crack recently, but other than that, no problem. The screw, we sent out a new screw to the customer, he can keep riding it, no problem. I don't think I've seen any failures of the carbon itself or the spindle. So yeah. Peak Talk at the end of last year, I think he did a video called like the 10 things he liked last year or something, and yeah, the Cybrei crankset was in there as well. So yeah, these things, they are legit. They're not the cheapest thing in the world, but you do get what you pay for. And yeah, now there's more choice with the 24mm crank spindle. I think some point in the future I will have to do a video like all about cranksets. We've got a bunch of cranksets on the website now. Obviously there's a bunch of other cranksets out there as well. I think I do need to run through like what are the pros and cons of each one and help people to choose. You know, we've got things like the XKD aluminium crankset, we've got the Magine cranksets, we've got the Cybrei cranksets. Obviously we've also got the in-color carbon cranksets. There's a whole bunch of cranksets out there, and I think it is an interesting topic with all the different spindle lengths and spider types and power meters and chainring sizes and all this stuff. So maybe, yeah, if you want a video on that at some point in the future, let me know in the comments down below, and I'll do a whole like guide to upgrading your crankset video, I guess. But yeah, for today, I think we're about done. So which one should you get? If you're upgrading an existing bike, I would say if you've already got a Shimano crankset on the bike, then maybe get the 24mm spindle. Obviously that way you don't need to buy a bottom bracket. It's a straight swap in, straight swap out. Don't need to faff around with changing bottom brackets or anything like that. If your bike already has a SRAM crankset on there, a DUB standard one, then just get the DUB version. Again, the same reasons, straight swap in, straight swap out. If you do buy a complete bike, you know, everyone's going for shorter and shorter cranks these days, so I think, you know, getting a straight swap in, swap out upgrade is a good upgrade. Like I say, you're probably going to drop like 150, 200 grams off your bike, and you can also experiment with shorter crank lengths, which are all the rage. I've been using 165mm cranks for like 5-6 years now, but now everyone's starting to get on 165mm cranks. I'm starting to think I need to go shorter still, so maybe I'll check out the 157.5mm cranks. That's the shortest one that Cybrei do, like 157.5mm. Maybe I'll get a pair for testing and see how I get on with that. But I'll put a bunch of links in the description down below so you guys can go have a look. Any questions, as always, let me know in the comments down below. But yeah, other than that, just a super short video to show you this, the 24mm spindle. All right, take it easy.